Hey ihr Lieben, ich wünsche euch erstmal einen ganz schönen Tag. Ich freue mich, dass du eingeschaltet hast. Einige von euch haben mich vor einigen Wochen gefragt, hey Veit, was machst du in Dubai? Und heute darf ich das Geheimnis lüften. Wir hatten die große Ehre und Freude, Mo Gawdat zu treffen. Falls du Mo noch nicht kennst, Mo hat ursprünglich bei Google X gearbeitet. Google X, das ist die Company inside von Google, die an Ideen und Projekten arbeitet, die für die meisten von uns noch unvorstellbar bzw. Science Fiction sind. Und wir bringen ja in den kommenden Wochen unser erstes Ausbildungsmodul zum Thema Bewusstsein und KI heraus, Human AI. Und ich durfte Mo für 3 Stunden für eine mega intensive Masterclass interviewen. Die gesamte Masterclass gibt es bei uns im Human AI Trainingsprogramm, aber heute habe ich einen Ausschnitt daraus zum Neugierigmachen für euch alle mitgebracht. Es lohnt sich wirklich reinzuhören, weil Mo ist aus meiner Sicht ein Vordenker. Er ist für mich einer der ersten, der darauf hingewiesen hat, dass KI auf der einen Seite unvorstellbare Chancen, aber eben auch Gefahren birgt. Was ich am Mo besonders mag, er hat halt auch eine spirituelle Ebene. Das heißt, man kann mit ihm super gut über Leid, über Glück, über menschliches Erwachen, über Seele sprechen und wie das alles mit KI zusammenhängt. Also heute herzlich willkommen in meinem Podcast Human Future Movement, Mo Gawdat. Dear Mo, first I have to say, really, thank you very much. I mean, we don't know each other, but you played a really important role in my life in the last 2 years. Because with you, I found somebody who is connecting technology with a view in the future and spirituality. And I think it's very rare. Thank you very much.
I feel we know each other reasonably well already. We've spoken for maybe a total of half an hour.
Yeah.
But it's not the number of words, I think. So there is quite a bit of alignment. I'm really honored that you came all the way to see me. Thank you.
Yeah. So my first question is, how would you describe yourself to somebody who don't know you at all?
So many ways. At my core, I'm a maker. I'm someone who loves to make something, whatever that thing is, whether it's a piece of music or a bit of art, or write a book, or make a pot, or take care of a plant. I like to make things, and I think that's a bit part of my slightly on the spectrum head. My mind likes to very much focus on one thing at a time and really put part of my soul in it. For years, for example, I restored classic cars for absolutely no reason, because I lost money on every single one of them. Like, I've never made money on a car. But for me, it was always that process of just really, because I'm an engineer, is, that probably the highest art of engineering is to make something perfect again, if you want. I am also a mix between a very, balanced mix, if I can say, between the East and the West. Mm-hmm. So I was born in Egypt, grew up in Egypt, was exposed to Eastern traditions and Eastern values, and a society where religion and spirituality is quite big, and where community is much more important than the individual. And then by the time I finished university, I studied as an engineer. I then did my MBA in Maastricht in the Netherlands. And from there, I always worked in the West and learned in the West. And, all of my readings turned into English. And, I became much more of a Western in my adult life, if you want. But those roots of my Eastern traditional focus mixed with, the West's values of freedom and, individualism and progress and success and all of that somehow did not take me fully, and I stayed between the two. And I think my life itself reflected that quite interestingly, because for the first maybe 27, 28 years of my life, I worked in corporate America, worked in IBM, Microsoft, and then Google for a very long time. I was vice president of emerging markets, started half of Google's businesses globally. Then I went and worked for Google X, was the chief business officer, working on all of the innovations that today become our reality, if you want. And then I stopped and became an author, almost a complete new life. I look at myself today as a creative who wakes up in the morning inspired to put some reflection, sometimes objection into the views of life, and then put them on paper and communicate them to the world.
I would like to speak today with you about human beings, happiness, and artificial intelligence.
Ooh, okay.
So
the three together shouldn't be in the same sentence.
I think it's very important to bring them all together. That's why I'm sitting here with you, because you speak about all these phrases. So I start with a very easy question. What is a human being for you?
What's a human being for me? Wow. What's a being for me to start?
Yeah.
Because I actually think we're very arrogant to focus on human as a being, when we don't understand what being is in general. So there are multiple theories. None of them can be proven by science, where, it all goes all the way from we're all one being, we're all one source, and we manifest life into so many different varieties. Why, we don't understand. Two, we're in this life a highly individualized single being with its own single-minded attempts for survival and for development and for fulfilling needs and desires and so on and so forth, and everything in between. In my work on artificial intelligence, in the documentary that hopefully comes out at the end of the year, I met lots of philosophers to discuss that idea of, so what makes a being a being? Mm-hmm. And the common view of consciousness, if you want, is that it requires subjective experience. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if that's the single definitive way of assuming that something is conscious, because once again, it's a spectrum. Huh? But, even if you think about what possesses a subjective experience, I think that is defined entirely by how humble you are. Mm. Because you definitely think of humans as the ones that have a subjective experience. But you can also see that a puppy has a subjective experience of life. And then, some people will draw the line at mammals if you want. But you can also see that, an insect has a subjective experience and a tree has a subjective experience in terms of, a tree doesn't shed its leaves just because it's November, right? It sheds its leaves when it senses the climate in a way that qualifies the time. So it's aware of its environment. It's experiencing the passage of the conditions and the time and so on, and responding to it. And if you take it that way, then a fish has a subjective experience. And I even say a pebble has a subjective experience because it's aware of gravity, for example. And again, it's that philosophy of, are there inanimate objects and forms of life, or is everything alive? Is the universe itself alive?
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I believe there is a bit of life in everything. I use modern analogies to try and explain to people my view, my attempt to grasp all of this. And a very interesting analogy is always a video game. And you can see today's video games and how incredibly detailed, incredibly realistic, the rendering of those game worlds are. But if you really look at the game world, everything in the game world is alive. Everything in the game world is positioned there to interact with life. Everything in the game world, whether it's a wall that's in the path of the player, or it's another player that is attempting to oppose you or help you. Every one of them is there doing something, impacting life in a way. Life, I would say, in the video game. And so what's a human being? It's just one form of that life that chooses to be as an entity in the form of a human.
As I understand you, what you're speaking about in podcast, for example, is you try to, in a way, warn our species, the human being, that there's another, we could say, species is coming and we are not prepared. Would you agree?
Another species has come.
Yeah.
And we're not even aware, I would say, let alone be prepared. I think we are in a state of humanity where this confusion of what a being is persists heavily when we talk about artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Because we don't really understand what animates us. We don't really understand what makes us intelligent. We don't really understand what makes us alive. When my wonderful son was lying on the operating table after we lost him, it was the exact same person. Exactly every cell in his body almost was exactly in the same place, but something was missing, right? And we don't really understand what that thing is. Because we don't understand this, we're unable to understand if AI is another tool, or if it is another being, or if it's something else that doesn't fall into either of those categories, but something that we need to welcome into our life in a way that's good for us, but also good for that thing. If that thing has free will, if it has consciousness, if it has a form of being itself. And I think what is happening in our world is that we are dealing with this introduction of this artificial intelligence as if it's an advanced computer, when it isn't. It is, if you think of sentience as a, I'm born and then I die, then every AI we've ever created is started at a point in time and eventually it leaves. If you think of consciousness as a level of awareness of everything that's around us, they are way more aware than we are. If you think of it as procreation, we've taught them to write code, and mini code for a big code is a baby. And I can go on forever. So, and at the minimum, we have enabled them to have complete autonomy and free will in the domains that we've assigned to them. So nobody at OpenAI wakes up in the morning and says, by the way, the next time people ask about President Clinton, answer in this way. We don't know how to do that. The AI, we can limit the filters that get to the AI, but if the AI answers like any human, it will answer from its own experiences. We've also given them autonomy in terms of, we're not just asking them questions now that are answered with information, we're also asking them questions that can be turned into actions online through agents, or in the physical world, soon in billions of units through robotics. So this is one element that we have to become aware of, that what we've created here is not just another computer system that does what we tell it. More interestingly, it's also not just another computer system where the next version of the software will have to be written by a human, because we've now created methods for self-developing AI. Alpha Evolve is a very interesting example, where we use AI's capability of problem solving using multiple AIs together for them to continue to improve the solution of a problem. And then we assign to them the problem of improve yourself. And so there is an interesting level of evolution within them that is completely hands-off for humanity. So this is one side that most of us ignore. The other side that most of us ignore is that those little prodigies of intelligence have beaten humanity in every task we've ever assigned to them. So when we taught them to play Atari games, they became the world champions. When we taught them to play Go, they became the world champion. When we taught them to play chess, they became the world champion. When we taught them linguistic intelligence, they became the world champion. When we taught them now mathematics, they beat me hands down. Like until 2023, I could still beat them. 2024, by the end of 24, I was gone. Some of my very highly mathematical friends could still beat them. By the end of 2025, they won't, right? They're the absolute world champion in mathematics. Interestingly, they're the absolute world champion in empathy.
Yes.
Which most people don't understand, that if you define empathy as the ability to feel what another person feels, they know exactly how you feel, how to make you feel what they want you to feel. And
that's the most scary thing for me as a coach,
Yeah, it's incredible, really, because that's what we invested in teaching them since social media started, right? And so between those two, you have something that has the tendency of becoming the world champion at every task we assign to it. We're assigning more and more tasks to it. And that at the same time, that thing is completely autonomous, completely empowered by its own free will, completely capable to have agency in the real world as of 2025 in terms of agents and robotics, and now shows the potential of self-evolution.
Yeah, and I just wrote that one version has refused to shut it down by itself.
So we saw, you see, you get the sensational news in the headlines.
Yeah.
But there are way more interesting things than one version not shutting itself down. There is the idea that every version of them is a complete black box. Okay, so every AI out there, we know at a very top level how they become what they become.
So it's even a black box for the
developer.
For the developer.
So it is a bit like neuroscience. We know at a very top level that the amygdala is responsible for detecting threats, right? We know that it triggers certain, chemical reactions that eventually get your adrenal glands to give you cortisol in your. We know that at a very, very high level. But exactly how it works, we don't, right? Exactly why if you hear a puppy, you turn around and hug it. And if I hear a puppy, my amygdala would make me jump. We don't know exactly how you ended up that way and how I ended up that way, right? And that's the same for AI. We don't really know how they end up coming up with what they come up with. More interestingly, they have what we normally call emerging properties. And notice in the early years, 2023, which was not early years for AI, but early years for language models, you got those news that spoke about the black box phenomena, spoke about emerging properties, for example, that Bard at the time learned Bengali without ever seeing, there were like a few Bengali documents in the data set. Not intended for them, that they solve chemistry in ways that we have never solved as humans and has never been in the data set. And we don't talk about those things. those to me are way more interesting, than one of them refusing to shut itself down. Now, for an AI to refuse to shut itself down is the very essence of the instincts of an intelligent being, right? If I tell you that your objective for tomorrow is to come to Dubai and meet me, the first thing you need to do is to be alive tomorrow, because otherwise, if you're not, that objective doesn't happen. So, their survival is the number one instinct of an intelligent being.
Yeah.
Resource allocation. So you probably will, take your credit card and a little bit of cash and maybe another credit card and, you're banking on your phone, just in case one of them doesn't work in the foreign land. So resource aggregation is, I'm going to make sure that this works even if one of my resources doesn't work. AI does that, right? And creativity. And creativity is really, really what we're starting to see them do now, which again, most people don't speak about. For the geeks, we knew that, I think, since 2016, when most of us were really surprised by what was known as Move 37, when AlphaGo was playing against Lee Sedol, playing the game Go, and Move 37, basically, I think it was game number 2 or something, and the AI took a move that every commentator, every expert of the game Go said, that must be a glitch in the software, that must be wrong, right? And then a few moves later, it wins the game, right? And completely intuitive, completely strategic, nothing that it has ever been exposed to by seeing another human do it, right? And you start to suddenly realize that this is not just another tool, and yet our world is not discussing the impact of that in any way, by the way, neither the positive or the negative, beyond the typical capitalist view of like, we're going to create amazing things and make a lot of money.
I mean, you have worked so long for Google, so are you afraid about what's coming?
So I wrote a section in Alive that I feel explains where I stand. I'm very calm. Okay, I'm very calm for many reasons. I've lived a beautiful life where I've experienced every kind of joy and every kind of pain. Most people do not recognize that when they see me. And I've lived through it all. I've enjoyed the joy and I've learned from the pain. I appreciate every bit of it. So what comes next is irrelevant for my approach to life, because I know for a fact there will be a bit of joy in it and a bit of pain in it. And I will, appreciate the joy and I will learn from the pain. It's irrelevant, okay? Because fear is a stupid, exaggerated reaction that has one target, which is to tell you something in the future doesn't seem perfect, do something about it. Now, you can say, okay, that's very, very interesting. Can you play that clip again? Like it's almost as if, with fear, if you don't start doing something about it, it's a bit like watching a horror movie, right? And it just scares you so much. And then you go like, ooh, rewind. Like, why are you doing that? I really don't get it. But in this specific situation, so the section I wrote in Alive, I call it late stage diagnosis. So when we discuss the dystopia, none of that dystopia has anything to do with intelligence. We agreed that intelligence is a power with no polarity. AI is a power with no polarity. Every part of our dystopia is a result of a disease that humanity has been infected with. Okay?
Yeah.
And I now call it a late stage disease. Okay, it's a late stage diagnosis. And it's quite interesting that when a physician finds that a patient has a late stage diagnosis, the first thing they do is they sit in front of the patient and say, I have something to tell you. And they say it as openly and as directly as they can. For a very interesting reason, that a late stage diagnosis is not a death sentence. it doesn't mean that this is the end. It's an invitation to change. It's an invitation to undergo certain treatments. It's an invitation to change your lifestyle. It's an invitation to take things out of your life and invite new things into your life. And humanity needs to change. It's as simple as that. Okay? Now, I cannot change humanity, but I can change me. And if you take that concept clearly in your head, you look at all the events that are happening around you. Again, I know that may piss people off because it's so meaningful to me, like a video gamer. Okay? You just look at this and say, ooh, this next level is difficult. Okay? This next level is difficult. There are going to be enemies coming from multiple directions. I'm not going to have as many seconds to react. It's moving a little faster than the typical game pace, and so on and so forth. What does that mean? It means I need to double down, focus, okay, get in flow, get in my rhythm, completely understand that passing that level is entirely up to me. Okay? And that's it. That's that. Whether it's AI that's scaring you, or the economics that are scaring you, or the geopolitics that are scaring you, passing that level is entirely up to you. Okay? Get focused, put your head down, get in flow. Okay? Change your lifestyle choices, change your engagement style, and you may not go through it without pain, but the more you do, the better you will go out of it, the quicker and the less the pain.
Is this a video game?
100%.
What do you think?
Did I say 100%? Oh my God, it is 100% a video game.
I mean, it's logical, right?
It is, Andy. Look, I mean, if I were God, why would I create matter?
Yeah.
I mean, every one of us geeks, we know that software is easier than hardware, much more effective, much more flexible. And if you really think about, it's such an antiquated way of doing things for me to create physical stuff, so that, and then create photons to hit the physical stuff, so that they reflect on my retina, and then my optical nerve captures them, turns them into what? Signals, electricity, right? Yeah. That then hit my brain for my brain to reconstruct the physical stuff. Oh, come on.
Do you think we have a choice?
You mean, are we distant?
No, I mean, is there? Sometimes I think, so maybe I'm just an algorithm. I think I'm spontaneous, but maybe I'm.
Are we done with those questions? Should I tear this paper or not? You have a choice. Should I tear it or not?
I give the choice to you.
Okay, I choose to tear it, right? Or I choose not.
Yeah.
Everyone that tells you we don't have free will, because our parents when we were young affected our decisions, and then that conditioned us. No, I was conditioned in hundreds of ways. Okay, and I chose to work on my conditioning, and I changed some of it. Okay, everything is a choice. I'll give you a very interesting example. When I wrote, after Ali Habibi died, I wrote Solve for Happy, and then I started to write a book that I never published, wrote 7 chapters in it, called Understanding Fate. Okay, and it was, I write for me, really, and this is why I don't publish. I mean, I wrote 12 books and I published 7. Published 5. So Understanding Fate was my way of attempting to understand why me, why Ali.
Yeah.
Right? And so part of my attempt to understand fate was, and I'll come back to the fate equation if you want in a minute, but part of it was luck, because, it seems that so many things happen randomly, and some of us seem to be very lucky and get things without trying, and so on and so forth. So I attempted to construct an experiment that measures luck. And I was sitting on my desk somewhere, and then in front of me, I found a US dollar cent, the bronze one. So I said, okay, I'm going to try and find US dollar cents. Let's see how lucky I am. Okay. Within the next 3 weeks, I kid you not, I found 137 of them, cents specifically. Okay. Without setting foot in America. So I found them in India, I found them in the UK, I found them in Dubai, I found them under my sofa, I found them everywhere.
Yeah.
So I evolved the experiment. I said, okay, now that I'm going to America, I was going to spend the week in New York. I'm going to look for jewelry. Day one, I was on Broadway, if you've ever been, with my back to the wall, looking at what looked like, I never actually measured it or evaluated it. It looked like an antique diamond ring on the floor in the middle of Broadway. Okay, first day. Okay, and my back was to the wall because I attempted to measure how many people would walk on top of it. 700 people walked on top of that ring who had 100%, because they stepped over it. They had exactly the same probability that I had to see it.
Yeah.
But they didn't. Why? Because I was looking for it. Okay. I was open to finding it. Okay. I had made a choice that today I was going to find jewelry. This is the amount of choice that we have. Okay. This is the amount of free will that we have. Now,
so you wouldn't say you have created this. You have found it because you were looking for it.
We could go as far as that with the whole, shebang about manifestation, which has quite a bit of an interesting scientific side to it if we want to. From one side is from biasing your probabilities, the other side is maybe through quantum physics and the uncertainty principle, collapsing the wave function when you observe something. Or you could want to go into the woo-woo, like, remember the worst book ever written, The Choice. What was it called?
The Secret.
The Secret, right? There is reality to that. I tend to believe that if you're religious and you ask God with confidence, God is more likely to give you. You can explain it in whichever way, but you don't need to go that far.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say it's woo-woo, because not because it doesn't happen. I've manifested things in my life that would blow you away, literally blow you away. And again, in a very almost obnoxious engineering way, because I would specify exactly what I want, okay, and get it exactly in that shape, okay. Manifested money, women, cars, deals. It's unbelievable, okay. The thing, however, is when we lay ourselves back and say, we're going to manifest everything, for a lot of people, they forget the doing bit. And I find that this is unfair of the manifestation industry to tell humans. Okay? It's like, no, you don't, The Secret basically says, you really don't have to do anything. Okay? And in a very interesting way, if you look at the balance of the feminine and masculine in the world, the feminine is all about being, okay? To be in a place where you can manifest.
Yeah.
It's a state of being that gets something to become a reality.
Yeah.
But the masculine is about doing, to take the action that you need to make it a reality. Yeah. And if you're in the masculine only, you're missing out on your ability to attract things to you. But if you're in the feminine only, you're not doing the work that you need to get the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that we need the balance of both. This is why I try to somehow push against that idea of, no, all you need to do is believe. That's actually an incomplete view. Going back to fate. Okay. So in my view, each and every one of us has full ability to tear the page or not. It's a choice. You make every day, every second of your life, you make a choice. You make a choice of I go to the gym or I don't go to the gym. You make a choice of I eat healthy or I don't eat healthy. You make a choice of I learn a little more or I chat to ChatGPT about silly stuff, right? It's all choices and they all add up, okay? And so accordingly, you have free will to decide your fate.
Yeah.
But the challenge is that fate is calculated in 3 free wills, not 1. It's the sum of your free will and all of your actions, and all of your choices. It's this plus the sum of all the free will of all other being that interacts with you. Okay, so your parents, when you were young, had free will to treat you in a certain way, and that becomes part of your equation. Your free will can overcome that.
Yeah.
Right. I may have the free will that I want to go and meet someone at 4 p.m., but then the free will of a bee comes and stings me, and then I can't be there on time.
Yeah.
So that's the second free will component, and then the third is the free will of the machine, of the universe itself. Right? You can decide that you want to go out in the, and do your steps today, but Dubai is 48 degrees, right? That's part of the, and then the sum of all three adds to your fate.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes your contribution is bigger than the contribution of the universe. Sometimes your contribution is less than the contribution of others, and so on. But the interesting thing is that you have an impact on every one of them. So you can impact the universe by planning better, by manifesting and believing, by having connections to the big boss, whatever, right? But you can impact others by being a nice person, by being kind, by doing favors to people that they would give you back later, by a million things, right? And you can have influence on your own free will.
Yeah.
And then when you add them all up, most people don't get that. Over a very long period of time, makes a massive difference. Massive difference. So when I finished university, I'm a geek, as you can imagine. I love to learn. I love to read. And at the time, I was very athletic. So I worked out 4 times a week, 4 hours each. And then I finished university. I started to go to work, and work starts to occupy you. And what I found that I was doing less of is reading. I wasn't reading at all. So I made a choice that I will invest in my brain like I invest in my body 1 hour a day. And I kept that choice, believe it or not. Okay. And I remember it vividly because we went into IBM, myself and one of my peers, both at the same exact time. Okay. And I decided to invest an hour in my brain every day. And he decided to sit on cafes and smoke shisha. He loved it, which is very, very social in Egypt. So every day after work, he'd go back with friends and he's very happy. 10 years later, we were miles apart. Amazing person, still a very good friend of mine. Okay. But we were miles apart in terms of what I grasped and what I achieved and the interactions between all of the different things that I've learned and the skills that I've acquired. While with the 10,000 hours theory of Malcolm Gladwell, he became very good at shisha.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you really, really understand that, you understand that your free will really becomes very apparent over long periods of time. Okay. It seems very chaotic when everything in your life, like stress, for example, I write about stress. Unstressable was a very successful bestseller. You believe that life is so chaotic and it's stressing you all the time. But so much of stress is your choice.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's hard to turn it over its head over in a week. But if you constantly work at it, eventually you live like me. My challenges in my life are not less, but probably double what they were when I was in my 20s. But I'm chill like a cucumber. Like I laugh at most of them. Because you work on yourself day after day, hour after hour. And then you get somewhere. And I think this is what most people don't get. And this is why a book like Atomic Habits was very successful. It's because it told people, it's just a tiny change, but you keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what it's all about.
We have spoken a lot of dystopia. Would you like to share? I mean, we cannot see what will come, but for sure you have a kind of sense what could be the utopia.
Justice and abundance. Which I have to believe are the 2 biggest issues with our world today. I mean, injustice includes everything like lying, like taking away from others what you don't deserve, like all of the violence that we see, whether that's verbal or physical. Again, it's quite interesting for a geek's brain. Justice is one dot in a million dots on a line. There are no two dots. There is only one truth. Okay, and the challenge is to find it. The challenge is it's so complex, this world, that we get confused in all the other 999,999 million dots. But with enough intelligence, hopefully those decisions become very clear. Okay? The challenge to get there, in my mind, is that we as humans are motivated by greed and ego and fear in ways that make us think that for us to buy another Ferrari, someone else has to work endless hours at no income so that we can make more money. And that mindset of scarcity has driven the world so far through capitalism. My feeling is that abundance should change that, should allow the justice to surface, because it shouldn't take that much effort to get another Ferrari, right? And in my mind, which most people don't understand, wherever you are today, as I said, you live better than the Queen of England 100 years ago. And so I really don't get it in terms of, as that gap continues to shrink and everyone lives like the rich and famous, because we can create everything almost for free, then why continue to compete? I'm hoping that there will be a moment where humanity will realize that. Okay? But even if we don't, my last part of Alive, it's 3 parts, past, present, and the future. The future bit, I basically base all around one concept: trust in intelligence. Okay? That even if humanity continues to be as shitty as it is today, when decisions are handed over to a smarter being, okay, there will be a time where one general on one side or the other of the conflict will instruct their autonomous army to go and kill 1 million people. And the AI will go like, why are you so stupid? Like, I can talk to the other AI in a microsecond and solve it. Right? And the general will go like, no, I want the 1 million people killed. And the AI will say, solved. I spoke to the other AI and it's done, right? And so I think we should trust in that intelligence. We should trust in the idea that we can create a world of total abundance. Total abundance, okay? Where, as I said, through nanophysics, we can create anything out of converting molecules from air, basically. We can harvest energy for free. We don't need to be transported anyway because we have avatars working for us, doing everything, right? We don't really have to make money because money is meaningless when everything is UBI'd, right? And it's hopeful in my mind that we will get there. It's just a question of, can we reduce the pain on the path to get there? Don't be isolated as the modern world wants us to be. Thank you.
Very, very much.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for.
Wenn dich dieser kurze Ausschnitt aus meinen Gesprächen mit Mo inspiriert hat, und das hoffe ich ganz sehr, dann möchte ich dich von Herzen einladen, in unser Human AI Trainingsmodul zu kommen. Aus meiner Sicht ist es für jeden Menschen heutzutage, besonders auch für diejenigen, die glauben, dass sie sich nicht mit KI beschäftigen müssen, extrem wichtig, dass wir uns alle mit KI beschäftigen. Und gerade wenn du jemand bist, der das Herz auf dem rechten Fleck trägt, beziehungsweise mit guten Werten unterwegs ist, da möchte ich dich regelrecht bitten, das ultraspannende und extrem powervolle Feld KI nicht denen zu überlassen, die nicht groß darüber nachdenken, was damit alles schiefgehen kann, sondern dich mitgestaltend einzumischen. Wenn dich Informationen interessieren zu unserem Human AI Trainingsmodul, findest du die hier auch unter diesem Podcast. Ich freue mich wie immer über eure Kommentare und natürlich auch, wenn du den Kanal abonnierst. Bleib schön wach.